They don't have to touch you to sexually abuse you. If she says no, you have to stop.
Right.
If you keep going, that's a rape. Because Baje has access to all the money. He will give her like, I'll give you 5 quid a week for food. Here, do whatever. This Baje committed suicide because he was just done with his life in the UK. Okay? Apparently men can't get raped when they're sleeping out in the street. So digits are your finger.
Right.
So digital rape is when you finger somebody without their consent. Girlfriends and boyfriends are in toxic relationships.
Yeah.
Abusers are usually very smart. Moto, ugly. They say if somebody tells that to you every day, you start believing it. I don't know how explicit this is gonna be for YouTube or whatever. This woman, she got raped by her partner on a sofa while she was holding her 3-year-old child.
आजको हाम्रो एपिसोड 5 मा हाम्रो चाहिँ आज स्पेशल गेस्ट छ मीना दिदी जो चाहिँ पहिला सिटिजन एडभाइसमा काम गर्नुहुन्थ्यो डोमेस्टिक अब्युजको फिल्डमा आज चाहिँ हामी जस्ट कुराकानी गर्ने युकेमा कतिको डोमेस्टिक अब्युज भइरहेको छ अनि त्यति साह्रो नेपाली कम्युनिटीमा कुरा हुँदैन भनेर आई होप हजुरलाई यो एपिसोड इन्जोय होस् जति हामीलाई रेकर्ड गर्नमा मजा आयो थ्याङ्क यू हेलो दिदी वेलकम टु भुइताला पोडकास्ट
थ्याङ्क यू भेरी मच
हाम्रो चाहिँ यो एपिसोड 5 आई बिलिभ अनि सो फर्स्ट अफ अल कुरा गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ what is domestic citizen advice?
Citizen advice. So Citizen Advice is basically a national charity. They've been around for years. When I used to work for Citizen Advice, I used to know when it was formed and all that. I think 19 something now.
Okay.
But so they're basically a national charity that mainly provide advice related to a lot of matters. So it's not only about domestic abuse, it's also about your rights, your benefits and everything in between. So your employment rights, your benefits, your any kind of disputes, a lot of stuff that they provide information about. But also one of their main jobs is to advocate on your behalf, and they also actively collect data and information nationally, and that contributes towards changing laws in the UK. So they do play a big role.
So त्यो citizen advice भनेको चाहिँ it's just not only focus एउटा कुरामा but different
if you were to think about it, they're like the physical version of Google.
Right.
Yeah, so you literally go in. If you have a problem, you go in, you ask them, is there anything that you can help me with? And sometimes it could be the limit of the help that they provide could be just informing you about your rights and what you could do, or what they call is signpost you to different organizations that are more specialist in your problem. Okay? But also sometimes you have caseworkers, like paid caseworkers. So Citizen Advice say we're mainly staffed by volunteers. 90% I would believe are volunteers that come in and work for this. So you get all the usually our elderly na bhanna me, that's a bit offensive, but you know, people who have retired but want to volunteer somewhere,
right.
Or students who want some kind of experience in advising or caseworking. This sort of also usually. So it's mainly staffed by volunteers, but also you also have your paid caseworkers that are funded by different charities. On top of that, government or charity garcha. So especially your domestic abuse and support workers. When I was there, the police crime and commissioner used to fund the job.
Right.
So yeah, you get funding from all over.
So तपाईँ पहिला नि काम गर्नु हुँदा चाहिँ हैन त्यतिखेर चाहिँ डिड यु तपाईले सोच्नु भयो थियो कि म यो फिल्डमा काम गर्न लाइक भलन्टियर गर्छु भनेर गर्नुभएको कि
No, I didn't volunteer.
It was a paid work.
People will be like, oh, she got paid, but she's saying she's volunteer.
Right.
No. So what I was wanted to do, so domestic abuse was always very I felt very strongly about it, Anna. obviously किन लुकाउने हैन in our Nepali culture it's everywhere it's so normalized that we don't make a huge issue out of it हैन and there were domestic abuse in my family as well, so I felt quite strongly about it and I thought okay, maybe I'll go in because it was originally like a 6 months job. So I thought I'll go in, I'll gain some admin experience, but I'll also learn about this really like topic that needs to be spoken about, raise awareness गर्ने खालको काम. So I thought अलिकति like a middle field of money and also experience. So I went in and I fell in love with the job. Ended up staying for another 18 months. So I was there for about 2 years, I believe. Yeah.
So तपाईं join गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ is it like म domestic abuse को field मा जान्छु भन्ने हो कि like you get to choose any?
No. So basically, I applied for the Nepali Domestic and Sexual Abuse Advisor. Advisor भन्नाले नि support worker.
Yeah.
I applied for that job specifically. So yeah, I did go in knowing what I was going into.
Okay. So हजुरको चाहिँ experience wise चाहिँ हैन हजुरको first काम गर्दाखेरि फर्स्ट क्लाइन्ट आउँदा कस्तो फिल हुन्थ्यो हजुरलाई चाहिँ?
Oh my god.
If you remember.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember my first client.
Yeah, first client.
But when you're taking a case on and it's domestic abuse and there's lots of illegal things involved. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this or not, but when you first get your case and it's like, okay, shit's real now. Like it's real. And especially when you hear cases about people being beaten up, people being sexually abused, and you have to involve a lot of authorities in it, but also that person has come to you because they are looking for that support, and they are coming to you because they haven't got that support anywhere else, or they don't feel comfortable going somewhere else. So somebody's expectations and hopes are basically on you, on your shoulders, and it's a heavy job. It was a heavy job when I went there. That's why I'm not sure whether the other person told you that every month we, as part of the job, we are sent to counseling, basically counseling ko लागि पठाउँछ के उनीहरुले हामीलाई,
right?
So just to offload all that emotional trauma that we've taken in from our client. Yeah.
त्यसले चाहिँ त्यो monthly त्यस्तो गर्दा चाहिँ help हुन्थ्यो, so like to
definitely not even to offload what you have taken from the job, but also you get to talk about your personal traumas not related to your job. So it was very helpful. That's when I realized, okay, this is another thing that should be
like
a big issue in our culture, because counseling is not really common in our culture. That's when I realized, okay, counseling is really beneficial, because when people think about counseling, people think, oh, jansa sofa ma bassa or chair ma bassa, then you talk about emotions, you cry, like the typical stereotypical scene of a movie. Yeah, but it's not like that. You literally have to build up a rapport with your counselor. You have to basically talk to each other and find whether you're a good match and whether you feed off each other, because a counselor, if your counselor is really good, they will work with you, okay? But you also have to know that a good counselor may not be the right match for you, so you have to find a good counselor first, your match, and then you talk about your issues. And it's not like you pour out all your feelings, trauma निकाल्ने हैन नि त, so you plus it takes time to warm up to the person as well. Some people are okay saying it out loud to the person, all of it, because what you discuss in that session doesn't go out anywhere. So it's like a very unjudged, comfortable space for you to just say whatever you want to say, manma bhako kura, and then get out and then forget about it. And some people will just need that. But for some people, it takes lots of sessions to work on it.
Right. So, के रे हजुरको त्यो first ever case याद आएन तपाईलाई, because it was a long time.
याद आएन, तर one of the first few cases, this is when I talk about the emotional trauma that you take from your clients.
Okay.
One of the first few cases I had, she used to live on the same street as my sister. So, and she was about the same age as my sister.
Right.
So even though there's no connection between her and my sister, you kind of emotionally connect yourself somehow to it. Like, this could easily be my sister. And you empathize in ways that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You do cross your line, like your professional line that you shouldn't cross, because
Emotions get in the way.
if emotions are involved, you won't be able to help the person independently. So you do need to keep that boundary quite strict. But initially, obviously, when you have no experience of working with domestic abuse clients, when you have no idea how to deal with them or how to deal with these emotions, because some clients come to you and all they do is cry with you, like with you, and not cry in front of you for an hour in a room.
And it's just silent.
You're like, I don't know how to deal with this. How do I deal with this? I'm pretty sure I don't even deal with people who cry, like close friends that cry on me. But luckily, as things went on, as I took more cases, it became a bit easier to handle emotions, and also to find the balance of where I should hold back and where I should empathize in an appropriate manner. So this was सजिलो but yeah.
यस्तो यो दिदी क्लाइन्टहरू आउँछ नि त अब प्रब्लम लिएर अब आई डोन्ट नो कति लाग्छ अब 1 महिना कति टाइम लाग्ला नि त हैन बढी लाग्ला तर सक्सेस रेट हुन्छ लाइक हुन्छ नि अब आउट अफ 100%
भन्नाले I think a lot of people, what people need to understand is domestic abuse ko victim.
Yeah.
You've probably seen some people being stuck in that abusive situation for years and years. Okay? To come out of the situation in the first try is not, it's
impossible.
Impossible, banally, it's rare.
It's rare.
If somebody's strong, because when you have been abused, you have been weakened by the person to some extent, to a lot of extent. You've been controlled by that person. So that person, when they start realizing that this person is okay, trying to get help, they will start manipulating you in ways, in ways that will stop them from getting help. So some play on their emotions, like, oh, I'm really sorry, I won't do it from next time. I've learned my lesson this time. Right. So it goes, so it's all about buying time, and it's all about manipulating so that this person stays under your control for as long as that person wants them to be. Yeah. So it's all about that. That's why a lot of people go in a cycle, okay, vicious cycle, goes recycle again and again. So you will see a lot of police cases where they will recognize the victim straight away, okay? Because they've been there so many times. And they still go back because there's maybe children involved. They may have been financially controlled. So even if they try to get help and go out of the situation, they're going to be homeless. They're not going to have money to put food on the table. They're going to be feeling guilty about depriving a child of a parent. You know, a lot of things. So it's many barriers to actually get help. So success rate, very hard to say. Very hard to say.
It's individual depend गर्छ होला हैन.
Sometimes you'll be working with the client forever. For months and months and months. Literally. And you're there to support them if they want help. Okay? You cannot force your help on them. I think that's quite general in everybody's life, and whether it relates to domestic abuse or any issue that they're having. You literally cannot force your help on them unless they have a safeguarding issue. If they're putting children at risk, then the authorities can intervene to some extent. But you cannot tell the person to get out of the house. Get out of that person's house. He's not good for you. She's not good for you. They can't. And you will probably see कति मान्छेहरु toxic relationship मा बसेको. You know, it's because they're in a cycle. So literally the success rate that you can't really say. You can't put a number to it.
So for example, like कोही अब तपाईलाई थाहा हुन्छ नि त, जस्तो तपाई काम गरेपछि हैन, के भन्छ, like for example एकजना आएर and then they have like problem छ न तपाईलाई थाहा छ अथवा त्यहाँ काम गर्ने सबैलाई थाहा छ अनि पुलिसहरु नि इन्भल्भ भयो भने can they do anything about it unless like evidence नदेखेसम्म
Yeah, no, again, that's one of the most basic things that we cover when they come to us for help, okay? What kind of evidence to collect, what kind of things to have in your mind when you're thinking about leaving. So when a person walks into our room and says, I need help regarding this, some people will say, Mala abuse bhairahcha, but I don't want to leave now because I don't think I can. And you're basically being dealt with a situation. So if a person still wants to be in the situation, they cannot leave, all we can do is give them a safety planning. So one of the really good website is called Women's Aid. So Women's Aid must say there is a lot of information, and there's a guide book called Safety Handbook or Safety Checklist. It's called something like that. So it will literally break down if you're planning an escape, what things to pack or where to put things, or what documents you will need. It's like a little guide for the person. So you may not want to escape now, but if you're thinking of escaping in the future, then these are the things. Because you will see a lot of people who has escaped in an emergency and they don't even have their ID on them. So how do you prove when you go and apply for benefits, when you go and apply for an emergency shelter, how do you prove who you are when you have nothing on you? Some people walk out without a phone. And when you don't have those basic stuff, it's so hard to get help to you, but also the chances of that person going back, because they just think it's very frustrating, this getting help process is very frustrating. About phone or bhai bhane you can idea bhane you can go, but if you don't have that, you go into this bureaucratic circle with a lot of agencies and it becomes really frustrating. And for people who are weak mentally, the frustration is enough to break them and they will go back, and so the chance of them going back is quite high. So those are the things that they do. But also the only time an authority can intervene is, again, if they have a safeguarding issue. So if there's a child in the family and if the child is at risk, authorities will not tolerate that. They will obviously bacha liera gaidine bhanne, I think that's a big misconception. बच्चाहरु immediately लिएर गइदिन्छ थाहा पायो भने भनेर. No, that's not how it goes. There are different categories of child protection plan. So they do make risk assessment, and they have different types of protection, different levels of child protection plan. Okay, so the basic one would be keeping an eye on you, coming to a meeting every now and then. They will allocate a social worker to you, and that social worker will keep an eye on you. They will attend regular house visits. They will make sure the children's needs are met. The adults can do whatever they want, but as long as the harm, children like harm bhako chaina bhane, they're not going to take the child. They don't have the right to take the child away from you, because you have parental rights, a lot, like very strong parental rights. You would have to put the child at a lot of risk to actually get the children taken away from you. Mero kati dhere cases haru ma chai the only time that a child was taken away from the mother was because the mom was by herself with this 6 or 7 month old baby, and I was supporting her. She was in an emergency. She escaped her husband. She came to an emergency shelter, and the next thing I find out when I call her is the social worker calls me, right? And then she says to me, oh no, she's been admitted at a mental hospital. And I was like, hang on a sec, what happened? Because she was saying things to me, which is, I guess I failed to spot, but also I'm not a mental health trained. Yeah, so this case that went really, a really bad one. I could see it going bad, but there was nothing I could do to stop it, because the authorities were already involved. So this girl walked into a nursery and said that she was hallucinating, right, while holding a 7-month-old baby. So obviously the authority are going to intervene, because the person is not safe to look after this child, and she did not have any other family in the UK.
So just her husband अनि
Just her husband, who was
What,
abusive.
baby अनि
Yeah, the baby and
After.
her, and she's
Okay.
escaped her husband.
Okay.
So obviously, and this person had been beaten up when she was pregnant. So we knew that the husband did not care about the baby. So the baby was already at risk with the husband. So we couldn't take it back to the husband. So the child was taken into foster care. She was admitted at a mental health hospital. And then after that, I tried to get in touch with her, but it's just like, you know, you could not get through it. And the nurses at the hospital, because the client was not in a mental capacity to consent me
Yeah.
as her support worker, my hands were tied. Like they would not, confidentiality क्या strong छ नि त.
हजुर.
So they would not let me speak to her. They would not let me visit. They would not let me do anything. So and that case was just, to this day I don't know what happened in that case, which is
Okay.
obviously not a very good example, but
हजुर.
that is something that you should, you know, it can happen. So 1 out of 35 cases.
पछि पछि उहाँले तपाईँलाई कन्ट्याक्ट गर्न खोज्यो भन्ने भन्यो कि भन्नु तपाईँले त्यो भने जस्तो लाग्थ्यो कन्ट्याक्ट पछि
Yeah, I did try to call her mobile. Yeah.
उताबाट चाहिँ गरेन तपाईँले चाहिँ गर्नुभएको
No,
थियो
she did not. I think she got very frustrated with me. So obviously when you're going through all that situation and the whole system is very frustrating, she's gonna need somebody to blame. And at that point, I guess I was the person to blame because
Yeah.
I advised her to escape. And I told her there was help, and there was help, but she was just not in a state to. Obviously, the expectations are a bit unreal. Okay, when a victim escapes an abusive situation, the first thing we do is, can we house you with friends? Can we house you with family, where it's a bit safer, but you also have some form of support. Because that is probably the first thing that anybody would do. But if she has nobody else, then we would house her in a emergency accommodation. So emergency accommodation is not like a fancy flat then anta. So you have your one room, your ensuite, and you have
Basic
shared
stuff.
kitchen. Yeah, basic
हजुर,
stuff.
हजुर.
Something that it's better than being homeless.
हजुर
भनौँ न.
बाहिर चिसोमा बस्नुभन्दा
But her expectations were a bit, I guess, different. कि अब घर दिन्छ, benefits दिन्छ, and all that. So I was like, this is not, अब त्यस्तो हुने भए त everybody would हिँड्छ नि. And I'm not trying to say, but I'm just saying that to manage expectations of domestic abuse victim is a bit hard sometimes. And that case did go badly त नभनौँ. We did what we could, you know.
तर अहिलेसम्म you still don't know what is happening.
Yeah, still don't know what
त्यसले चाहिँ
happened.
तपाईँलाई कहिलेकाहीँ उता गराउँछ होला नि दिदी.
I do think about her, especially because I met the baby as well. I do think about the baby as well. But I have no idea where she is. I have no idea what happened after that. But obviously, honestly, I really don't know. And I
तर
did,
सोचिराख्यो भने it gets too much है दिदी.
it gets too much. You can't let these things get to you, okay? Because otherwise you won't be able to do the job, and somebody has to do the job. So it's a bit hard. It's a hard
तपाईँलाई
position to be in.
स्टिल अहिलेसम्म मिस्ट्री नै भइरहेछ लाइक
Yeah,
what is happening
yeah.
भनेर हैन.
Exactly.
तर दिदी यस्तोले अब्युजहरूको कुरा गर्दा चाहिँ पहिला हजुर काम गर्नुहुँदा चाहिँ होइन यो केसेसहरू आउने चाहिँ मोस्टली एज वाइजबाट हुन्थ्यो कि जस्ट ऱ्यान्डम लाइक मोस्टली हजुरले बाजे बजेहरू देख्नुहुन्थ्यो कि अथवा भर्खरको अथवा मिड 30s 40s त्यस्तो टाइपको कुन चाहिँ धेरै
हाम्रो नेपाली कल्चर, obviously हामी नेपाली कल्चरको कल्चर, the young ones were more I would say I got more of younger age than elderlies or mid age, okay? Because I think our younger age is a lot more independent, is a lot we are a bit more open-minded. I think our tolerance for those things is a bit lower than our elderly members of the community. उनीहरूको चाहिँ I think because it is so normal for them that they don't even think about getting help or going. अब यस्तै त हो हाम्रो society भन्ने चाहिँ they're more conditioned in the elderly age, हैन. Not saying elderly age को मान्छेहरू आउँदैन. We had plenty of elderly age को clientsहरू, but most clients were हाम्रो 20s to 30s age त्यस्तो ग्रुपको आउँथ्यो क्या
यङहरू भन्न खोज्दा चाहिँ दिदी म अबाउट रिलेसनसिपहरू हुन्थ्यो धेरै जस्तो
relationship I didn't get much about relationship which I was quite gutted about okay? Because I'm sure a lot of girlfriends and boyfriends are in toxic relationships भाइ अलिक चिन्ता पऱ्यो but you can relate you can basically relate
तर म सुन्न चाहिँ स्टोरीहरू which kind of like हुन्छ नि हामीले चाहिँ अब यङ्स्टरहरूले सोच्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब हामीले सोच्छ इट्स नर्मली हो अथवा चुपचाप बस्छ नि त
because a lot of toxic relationships some people especially when we are young अब म पनि young थिएँ एक जमानामा when I was young as well I also had an abuse my first proper boyfriend he was very abusive so that's why I feel very strongly about domestic abuse as well so when you're young and when you obviously every young age को मान्छे immature हुन्छ भन्ने छैन हैन but we have not seen world that much we may not know about the world that much we may not know what a good relationship should look like and especially when you grow up in a community where domestic abuse happens so easily you do feel like you get conditioned that it's not a big thing भनेर के अनि especially when you're young when somebody is really obsessed with you you see it as a very passionately love गर्छ मलाई I will not find another man like that's how I was I will not find another man who would love me this much
but that is like abuse ko sign
yeah obviously when I look back at my old self like that guy was a bloody stalker a more obsessive possessive you know this Indian movie Shahid Kapoor ko you know that
Kabir Singh
yeah Kabir Singh reminds me of him that is what a toxic relationship looks like and this is why when I went to see Kabir Singh I was like oh my god like people still make a movie and like glorify this kind of behavior and I think a lot of girlfriends boyfriends they don't really realize that they're in a toxic relationship they just think it's an up and down thing relationship like some people go through their phones some people know each other's password which is okay between girlfriend and boyfriend but you shouldn't be coerced into sharing your password you should be sharing it willingly and also even if you share it the person shouldn't really be going through your phone because there is lack of trust there so there's always this राम्रो relationship अथवा respectful relationship कस्तो हुनुपर्छ भनेर एउटा नदेखेको situation ma हुर्केको बेलामा I think we do find toxic relationships a bit to glorify गर्ने and all that that if anybody wants to know what a respectful relationship should look like balanced relationship there is something called power and control wheel again if you google power and control wheel it literally shows it's like an idiot's guide to what a good relationship look like so it looks like oh I shouldn't be coerced I shouldn't be manipulated this person shouldn't threaten me with violence we should have mutual respect this is literally the wheel if anybody wants to look at for especially for younger generation
what was this called
power and control wheel and it's like a little wheel it's like a diagram and that's literally it's divided into stuff and then it just says a few things about
like a pie chart
aspects pie chart just it's different aspects about what a respectful and balanced relationship should look like so it's very easy to read and it's
तर मैले यस्तो सोचेको भर्खर कबिर सिंह हेर्दा त मजा आयो हैन तर अहिले यस्तो सोचेको त इट इज काइन्ड अफ हैन त्यो त दैट्स अ साइन अफ अब्युज आई गेस किनकि ही गेट्स लाइक रियली रफ हुन्छ नि त हैन yeah so that is
exactly and walking up to a girl's house and then disrespecting everybody else no matter what happened and then taking drugs that is like a very situation spiral out huncha bhancha ni and that person has no self control has no self respect otherwise he wouldn't tragedy पर्यो भन्दामा drugs खाएर 2-3 दिन सुत्ने
त्यसो doctor
exactly and also putting his patients at risk by drinking while at work that is those things are like not being taken properly seriously and it's not
so did you talk about signs of like abuser signs or त्यस्तै हुन्छ कि like on as like talking about normal life ma किनकि त्यो त हामीले मुभी भयो नि त सो
Yeah,
टक
yeah.
अबाउट नर्मल लाइफमा अब जस्तो तपाईँले कसलाई देख्न भयो अरे फर इक्जाम्पल होइन लाइक नर्मल सोसल ग्यादरिङ यताउता होला अनि द वे अब ऊ चाहिँ आफ्नो बुढीसँग अथवा गर्लफ्रेन्डसँग बोल्ने स्टाइल त्यसै थाहा हुन्छ लाइक दिस गाई माइट बी अब्युसर टाइपको
I can kind of I आफैले भन्नु पर्दा हैन to say it so myself I do have a very good judge of character like I know I shouldn't be judging somebody too quickly but sometimes one meet is enough for me to know what kind of person that is okay? Especially when I come from this experience background and I realize okay like this is a bit suspicious type go or this is a bit no so signs यस्तो हुन्छ है फेरि abusers are usually very smart they're so smart that they know when to show the abusing face and when to not so they usually have like two faces okay? This is one of the most telltale characteristics of a abuser so they have two faces one for his victims behind closed doors and one for the society right and I'll tell you what there's two people that I know that are very respected in the society एउटा मामा चाहिँ I know he was even in a counselor position okay?
He still is?
Well, let's not share let's not share too much about it but I used to respect that man because I thought oh my god you are so open-minded you despite not having much education you've got yourself to that point and he used to talk about when you're in a public eye you do talk about a lot of things about fair things and that man's family recently got in touch with me because I know them from back home and they're telling me stuff the whole family his son his daughter-in-law his daughter his wife they're telling me things that are I don't even know why my jaw still drops when I hear those things the other side of him that you would never think about Anthony literally there are two faces and then there was another guy who I knew एउटा दाइ who I knew in the social circle and he was one of the when you talk to him एकदम बुझेको when you talk to him he would be like a good feminist you think okay these men have been raised well in our community भनेर and when you think about there's respect gender roles China and all that and I respect that guy and then a case lands on my desk and it's come from a police and I look at the address at this point I don't even know his wife I look at the address and I'm like no this can't be right so I recheck it and I'm like no way so I call the victim obviously when a police attends a domestic incident they do offer my service to them so they referred her to me so I called the victim as a first contact in a first case and I speak to her and she speaks to me about things and I can't even say she fakes it type okay she and her sister bichara they came to my room and cried for like an hour and a half and she was telling me stuff that I wouldn't even think like you know how marital rapes happen this kuraharu and then you're hearing all this about this person that you know and respect and you're like again I know I shouldn't be surprised but every time that happens it still takes me back
so is it like त्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ दिदी they are a couple तर forcefully sex गर्न खोज्ने
marital rape is when they're married but one party coerces the other party to have sex so not यस्तो हुन्छ है रेप भन्दैमा this is when sexual abuse comes rape भन्दैमा you don't have to tear your clothes pin down गरेर not have sexual intercourse but if the person is in fear of what this person might do if I don't give in that is also a rape because it's a coercive behavior so coercive manipulation control. These are a lot of things that are not addressed. So when we talk about domestic abuse, you have your physical, you have your emotional, you have your sexual, you have your financial, right? If I say physical abuse is that is very obvious. It's very easy to tell, Anna. But when I say physical abuse is also about somebody threatening to beat you up or asking somebody else to beat you up, that's also physical abuse, Anna. Okay. If I say sexual abuse is a person sending you, making you watch porn, not a lot of people think that as sexual abuse. And people think sexual abuse, they don't have to touch you to sexually abuse you. If they make you take nude photographs, if they make you watch porn, zabardasti, if they coerce you into, this is where toxic relationship between boyfriend and girlfriend comes. If they think, oh, you know, everybody's having sex, why can't we have sex?
Right.
You know, and things like, oh, you're so boring. But you know, young and all that, you do give in a little bit, Nita, because of those situations. That is also coercion. That is also sexual abuse. Again, not a lot of people understand that. Not a lot of people even think to that extent. But I'm not sexual abuse. So yeah, marital rape is when, you know, the other party coerces you to have sex with them because, you know, because they can.
So, there's like different kind of abuse. So main topic.
Main 4 different types of abuse. Physical, which is your threatening to abuse you physically, and then your or letting somebody else beat you. And then you have your emotional. Emotional is the one that's very hard to prove, type, okay? You know, how do you collect evidence apart from recording when that person is shouting at you or making you feel bad? So emotional abuse, they break you down from inside. Okay, and it's a very invisible type of abuse, very hard to prove, but in my personal opinion, one of the most damaging type of abuse. Okay? Because if
so they continue to do it.
Yeah, that is manipulation. That is emotional abuse. So when you talk about emotional abuse, it's also about you know, let's try for
right.
You know, things like that to make sure that person is still under your control. And emotional abuse could also be breaking down your self-esteem, because the way an abuser works is they make sure they manipulate you and you're under their control or you're inside their control circle. Okay? So if a person is confident and has a lot of self-esteem, naturally that person may not tolerate that kind of bullshit. But if a person is low self-esteem, so if I were to give an example, this person is constantly telling him or her, moto, ugly. They say, if somebody tells that to you every day, you start believing it.
Right.
It's almost like you wake up and you brush your teeth. That's very natural to us.
Muscle memories.
Yeah. So if somebody tells you every day that you're ugly, at some point that becomes your normal. So you start believing in it. And when somebody starts believing it, I'm ugly, another person is not going to like me, so this is who I have. I know this person is not nice to me. This person is sometimes nice to me. We have good days, we have bad days. But their bad days, their version of bad days, like mero fiance, we have a very respectful relationship. Our bad days is we disagree on something. Their version of bad days is you get beaten up black and blue.
Right.
That is not normal, okay? But for them, when you're inside that circle, that is your normal, and you don't realize or you don't really understand that is not supposed to be actual normal, and that is very abusive. So it becomes natural to them. They become conditioned. You know, we do things like kitab teke bhane dhogne or ghati chhoyo bhane fufu गर्ने, like, you know, that is conditioning.
Right.
That's what happens to them. Okay? They literally are there, and somebody self-esteem low bhako manchele ni, like, you know, I don't think I can go in the dating world again. This type ko bhanne. You know, you do feel very low. And
Right.
when you feel low and when you are mentally broken down, then it's a lot harder for you to get out of the situation. It's a lot harder for you to pick up that courage. Okay? And even if you pick up slight moment, spur of the moment, even if you pick up the courage, unless you're mentally strong, it's not sustainable. Okay? You can't go on being strong. You will have a breaking moment and you'll be like right back to the place that you find comfortable. And I'm not normal. Emotional abuse is that. Also, sexual abuse is basically address like it comes from a rape to digital rape. I don't know whether you know what the digital rape is.
No.
So digits are your finger.
Right.
So digital rape is when you finger somebody without their consent. And then also rape code definition is, say for example, a guy and a girl are like literally having sex, or any gender is having sex. Okay, I'm gonna be a bit explicit. So if you have penetrated the girl already and you're in the process of penetration, at any point if she says no, you have to stop.
Right.
If you keep going, that's a rape.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh no, like they were already doing it, so why would you call it rape? Because she already wanted, but she can stop, or he can stop at any point.
Yeah.
But if you keep going, that's rape.
That's rape, yeah.
Yeah, literally doesn't matter whether you're butt naked in a bedroom where nobody can see you. If you don't stop when the other person says no, that's rape.
Yeah.
Obviously very hard to prove because you're already in this situation. But yeah, sexual abuse is that. And then you have your
financial.
Sending nudes, making you watch porn.
Is
like
that financial abuse?
That's sexual abuse.
Oh, sexual abuse.
So financial abuse is another big one.
Yeah.
Like you can talk about it forever.
Yeah.
So financial abuse is this person has control over your finances. Right? So not only about controlling where your pay goes or taking away your pay wages, which is probably what people think that is the most common, but also giving you a very ridiculous budget. Right?
जस्तो तपाईले मलाई भन्नुभयो थियो नि त्यो one example about तपाईले भन्नुभयो कि दिदीले भन्नुभयो I can't remember, but it was like बाजे बजेको financial abuse धेरै हुन्छ हैन?
Yeah.
Have you got any example?
So if I were to put in context the family, you go baje bajeharu. So obviously baje bajeharu, they've come here without family, their own benefits, hana?
Yeah.
So what happens is when they apply pension credit, it's husband and wife go joint application, right? So the wife is here because of the husband, and because of the joint application, he's the main applicant, she's the spouse. So when the money comes in, it goes to his account, and then they are basically supposed to budget and share the money. But in that generation, usually men control the finances. So obviously, if a baje was giving baje a very ridiculous amount to live on, like khana pani napugne halko paisa, then that's financial abuse. Because at the end of the day, a joint application is a bit more than a single application, right? Money wise, the benefit that they get. So if Baje were to apply by himself, he would get less money. But because Baje is on the application, they will get enough money to last both couple. Right. But Baje, because Baje has access to all the money, he will give her like, I'll give you 5 quid a week for food. Here, do whatever.
Even though like दुईजना सँगै बसेर
yeah, if they're living together, it doesn't matter whether they're
आफूले चाहिँ enjoy गर्ने बुढीलाई चाहिँ limited
gambling,
right?
You know, issues
Gambling
like family abuse, gambling happens a lot in our community.
Oh
my goodness, you will see.
Baje was like it's a full-time job.
Exactly, and you know what? I slightly feel sad for them because they've gone in there because they were isolated from other activities in the first place. Okay? So they came to this country because obviously majburi ta island, not that who wants to come to and live in a new country where they don't have family around. I've had one case where Baje but they left for Nepal. They were like, Nani hami आउँदैन यहाँ अब अति भयो बस्ने न family छ न भाषा छ न you know anything केही पनि छैन. It's very difficult for us to be here, and we're living in shared house where landlordले repair पनि गर्दिन्न. It's cold, it's moldy, you know. They go home. 3 months later, they're back in the UK. Grown छोराछोरीहरू 30-40 वर्षको छोराछोरीहरू, they told them to go back because the benefits that they get were the main source of income, right, for them. So this is some situations can be like that. These people are sending money back home for their children, for their grandchildren, and it's really okay. If your mom and dad are saying they don't want to go back to UK, don't send them.
Right.
Do something else. I know it's easy for me to say that but financial abuse could be that. Them sending them back home because they need the money. Because it's for the money. Also, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to financial abuse is if, for example, if I wanted to study further or gain some training so that my earning potential is a lot better, then stopping me from going to that training and stopping me from studying further because you think you'll say धेरै कमायो भने, then that increases our chances of leaving me. Hey, so when I'm telling you, when I'm telling you an abuser works very smart, they are smart, okay? So they think to that extent. So if I were earning a little money, then if I were to escape, then I won't have much to go by, right? I'm depending on this man as well or this woman as well for my income. But if I wanted to train, if I want to invest in my own learning so that I can a lot more money, then if I have more money, then get confidence पनि हुन्छ. And you also, when you escape, you have your earning potential to live by yourself. If I stop you from doing that, if I stop you from going and investing yourself in learning new skills, because I think when she earns more, when he earns more money, he will leave me. That is also financial abuse because it's all related to money. It's all bringing them back under your control. So then financial abuse works in various ways like that. But mostly, our money makes the world go round. So if you don't have money, escaping a situation becomes that much harder. So yeah, financial abuse, a big chunk.
म त्यस्तो त थाहा थिएन नेपालमा चाहिँ त्यस्तो इन्कम माग्छ भनेर छोराछोरीले है. There's so many examples.
So many examples. The baje that are here, it's a very sad situation. I don't know whether you heard about this case. This was like 6-7 years ago. This baje committed suicide because he was just done with his life in the UK. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, he did. He did.
6-7 years ago. Okay, like family would have forced,
I think, when about COVID, remember how isolated we were, and we were a lot of people starting to have mental health issues.
Yeah.
Baje, when they came to the UK, I feel like, in my personal opinion, they went through that isolation without COVID. They are in a community where they don't understand English, where they have to depend on somebody speaking English for everything, whether that's doctor's appointment, whether that's, basic khana kinnedekhi liera, hospital appointment janedekhi liera, basic services you're having to depend on someone. And then you also have a lot of racist attacks on them. It's a very pitiful situation to be in. And even when you try to seek help from the police, you don't know how to describe your situation. You don't have a camera on your phone. So a lot of elderlies, they carry the old block phone, and even some baje don't even recognize the number so they can't even dial 999. And even if they dial 999, what do they say? Nothing. They don't even know that they asked for 3 services. Which service would you like? What will they say? It's so hard for them in the UK. Obviously, elderlies who have lived here for a long time, they've kind of adjusted to some extent.
Adequate.
But still, the language barrier is there, the culture barrier is there. And they've managed to make a little community for themselves that they meet and do yoga and, you know, all these activities. But still, it's quite hard. And, you know, seeking help in that situation is even worse.
तर मैले सुनेको एउटा फाइनेन्शियल अब्युज चाहिँ आई डोन्ट नो इफ यु सेड इट अल इज दिदी सेड इट बट इट वाज यु नो अब बाजे बजेहरू कोही कोही सिङ्गल हुन्छ नि उनीहरू चाहिँ सेयर एकोमोडेसनमा बसेको हुन्छ नेपालीहरूसँग यहीँको युकेको नेपालीहरूसँग एन्ड देन हजुरले भने जस्तो के अरे
I think I know where you're going with this.
के अरे त्यो प्याडहरू नि लाइक हुन्छ नि त्यो पिनहरू याद नहुने जस्तो सो दे गिभ घरको ओनरलाई कार्डहरू होइन अनि फाइनेन्सियल लाइक द्याट्स अ फाइनेन्सियल अब्युज होइन किनकि पैसा चोडिदिने बजे बाजेको होइन
We had a baje who completely trusted his landlord, Nepali नै. And you know, as I said, when you're in a very desperate situation where you have to depend on somebody else for communication, for stuff like PIN number hanne to withdraw cash, you're depending on them. And PIN number nadi hundena. And we have had somebody who stole money from the baje, like thousands of pounds. And you can't really say, bank ma gaera pani you can't really say anything because bank ma say it's your responsibility to protect your PIN. Because you intentionally shared that PIN with that person, they're going to be like, it's not our responsibility, you know? Whatever happened between you and them, that's between you and them. You can't really do anything about it. And you do find a lot of, obviously, not every landlord is bad. You do have very good landlords who will take care of baje because of they feel like, oh, you know, they do take good care of you. And some landlords are absolutely generous. But also you get the other extreme side of where landlords take advantage of the person. They charge you more money than what they get housing benefit of. And then living situation, because the baje is not going to go complain. Right. Because they're already struggling to find rental properties. They're already struggling. And then whatever they can get, they will just they tolerate more. Because obviously they have this fear of eviction. They have the fear of, you know, I mean, yeah, obviously situation. And if they're related, that again is domestic abuse. If they're not related, it's not, it's civil suit. But if they're related, that's domestic abuse, basically.
Talking about also gambling problem भन्नुभएको थियो नि त अघि बाजे बजेको मैले सुनेको अनुसार चाहिँ बाजे बजेले भद्दा भन्छ नि त सो दे गेट द्याट अनि उनीहरू चाहिँ ग्याम्लिङ सबै पैसाले गर्दैन के अनि दे डोन्ट ह्याभ एनिथिङ टु इट एट अल त्यो इज द्याट ट्रु
I think that's true, not only in baje cases, but in just people in who are earning as well. You do see some people who gambling, when you have an addiction, obviously you don't know how much to gamble on. You don't know, you just don't know. Obviously baje situation is a bit worse because they have a limit to what they get, like they have a limit to their income, because the government is not going to be like, oh, you lost all your money, here, have some more bandhananta. But for normal gambling people, like people who are working age, if they gamble and they lose all their money, they can always pull extra shift. They can always pull extra income. I mean, not saying that they're still in a better situation, right. Because at the end of the day, they're being irresponsible with their money, and they're getting into debt. And they're getting into all these gambling habits. They can't stop. Citizens Advice, they did make up dedicated Nepali gambling handbook.
I was about to ask that as well.
They did make it, but do people use it? I would like to know.
I don't think so.
I would like to know as well.
I don't think so.
But yeah, also gambling does contribute to domestic abuse situation as well, because when you're gambling, alcohol, you know, your basic culprits, gambling, alcohol, they contribute to your domestic abuse. I'm not saying they are the cause. This is why I need people to make a clear distinction. I'm not saying they are causes of domestic abuse, but they are a contributor. Because at the end of the day, so obviously when you have had alcohol, you're stressed, you're not in a control of your emotions. When you're gambling, you're stressed because you've lost money, and you have to let out that stress on somebody. And usually abusers say they choose the weakest person. Right? They choose the weakest person. Also, another thing about domestic abuse is it just doesn't happen overnight. One of the things that an abuser does is they test the water gradually. Right? So today he will call you ugly. Oh, jokingly bhaneko. Tomorrow he'll be like directly to your face, ugly. Next day they'll be like, धेरै बर्ता नगर है हान्दिन्छु फेरि. Next day it will be a threat. Maybe later on that turns into actual him hitting you. So the more you tolerate, the person knows. This is when they call it testing the waters. The more you tolerate, the more they push. यो मान्छेले चाहिँ मलाई कहाँसम्मको abuse गर्न दिने रहेछ भनेर के. So that is one signs to look out for. When that person's personality and their behavior is changing aggressively, gradually, that's when you have to look out for. And also alcohol and gambling already a very stressful situation. And stress was jhagda huncha. You can beat up someone, you can emotionally abuse someone, you can say, and I personally think these days a lot of people are going into this investing apps, getting scammed left, right and center and losing a lot of money. And that's causing a lot of relationship breakdowns, that's causing a lot of stressful situations. Another thing that causes stressful situation is pregnancy. So when you're pregnant or when you've just given a baby and you're both tired, the risk of domestic abuse happening goes up. But these are not to blame. So if you have an alcohol problem, some people will use it as an excuse. If you have a gambling problem, an abuser will use it as an excuse because that's the easy way out for them. An easy explanation of why he did it, why she did it. So, and a lot of victims also minimize the damage by making that an excuse. Roxy खाएको बेलामा मात्रै हो उले त्यस्तो गर्ने, रक्सी नखाएको बेलामा त राम्रै छ.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. Gambling not पहिला त मैले उस्तै थिएन, यो gambling छुटाइदिनु पर्ने हो. Stuff like that. And I'm like, no. That person has, this person can either choose to get help for his alcohol or her alcohol, or they can take it out on you. So if they have chosen to take it out on you, then that's abuse. Don't use alcohol as an excuse. Because you have those options. You always have those options of going to go get help so that you can be a better husband, wife, better father, better grandfather, better grandmother, get a better mother. You can be a better family member by seeking help. Or you can let your problems be let your problem, keep using them as an excuse to still let out your anger, your stress on a weaker person, a weaker family member. So you always never use alcohol, gambling. These are excuses. And also never excuse a person because of that. And I really want to make that clear, okay? Because a lot of people do. Right? Because we do have, domestic abuse, why it's so hard to get help? Because personal emotions are involved. If a stranger comes and assaults you, you will not even think twice about suing that person or calling a police. But when your family member hits you, you will think a lot of times before you pick up that phone, to call the police. Because you think, emotions are involved.
It goes long way back, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. And you think, barbadai huncha yo मान्छे मैले पुलिस कल गर्दै भने रेकर्डमा हुन्छ. This person this is a temporary phase for them. And it happens a lot in friendships as well. It happens a lot in relationships. It happens a lot in family, especially family where children are involved. So it's honestly, these are just excuses that contribute to.
So यति धेरै examples are na. तर why do you think नेपालीहरूले चाहिँ धेरै कुरा गर्दैन यस्तो सोसाइटीहरुमा चाहिँ?
You know why? You know why it is. You hear things about honor-based violence, right? It's all about honors. Hamro society ma, it's all about shame. It's about izzat, family ko izzat bachaउने. You would rather cover up somebody's bad behavior than go out and tell that person exactly what they're doing. Okay? So not a lot of people will openly speak about it. Kura kaatcha. And also there's not a safe space for people to speak out anyway. Hey, you will see a lot of people just come out to gossip about you. Hey, you will see khutta tanne besi huncha and there's shame involved. Hey, and there's this thinking that children should be raised with parents, mother and father, no matter how abusive one of them can be. Hey, they would rather raise the children in an abusive situation than separate, because that is not a norm. Maybe early divorce rates are up in Nepali community, I can see that. And I say, if it was for a reasonable reason, that's good enough. It's not a bad thing. Because हाम्रो मम्मीहरुको जमानामा, हाम्रो बाजेबोजूहरुको जमानामा, once you're married. And especially for women, you become tainted type ko bhन्छ नि. You're there. You're theirs forever. And अहिलेको young generation चाहिँ, because women also have been able to earn, women also have been able to be educated, and they are more independent, and they can go out and do things by themselves. They can go out and do earn money if they need to, and you don't have to be completely dependent on a person. Divorce rates are going high because they would not take all this bullshit. So yeah, that's literally right. The dynamics of our society is changing very slowly, but still you will see a lot of people you will see families that are more traditional here than Nepalma. You will probably find more open-minded people in Nepalma because you've come to a country, and this is what the mentality is. You brought your children to the West, but you don't want them to be too westernized, right? And I'm like, please make it make sense.
Right.
Like you're raising them in a Western community, but you want to hold on to a lot of traditional stuff. Some parents are more strict here than they would be in Nepal, because they're so head into preserving your tradition, preserving your culture, that they would be more strict here. A lot of people do a lot of traditional stuff here more than they would have done back home. So it can work that way as well.
It's like, I feel like more like duite side, they want to have a 50-50 type ko kya?
Yeah.
So like for example, अब जस्तो फेस्टिभलहरु भनौं हैन, नेपाली न्यू इयर नि बनाछ, इंग्लिश न्यू इयर नि बनाछ, क्रिसमस कहिले नमनाउने मान्छे क्रिसमस बनाइरहेछ हैन, बेबी विन के रे उतिहरु हैन, वेडिङ सेरेमनीहरु.
Yeah.
There's everything हुन्छ नि, is just like bit of 50-50 kya.
What I find more, personally, I'm not trying to make light of any situation, what I find funny is people are so quick to adapt to these cultures. Nepali New Year, English New Year, Christmas, but also Dasai. They're okay to celebrate all that, but biha चाहिँ आफ्नै जातको लागि गर्नुपर्छ.
Yeah.
Religion चाहिँ आफ्नै अर्को जातको गर्नु हुँदैन. Like, let's not even go to अर्को रेसको मान्छे, आफ्नै जात भित्र पनि there's discrimination. There's so much cultural structure that causes all this friction, and you think there's not hate between even Nepaliहरू भित्रै. There is, isn't it?
Of course.
Gosh, but yeah, obviously shame culture. I have personally not heard about honor-based violence. UK community ma there could be. I think I probably heard about one case or something where I think the brothers did try to threaten the couple, because I think there was an inter-caste relationship or something like that, and the brothers did go around to threaten the couple. But हाम्रो यो South Asian community, like Indian, Pakistani Muslim community ma say there's a lot of honor-based violence. There's a lot of, a lot of that. So honor-based violence has a separate dedicated category in हाम्रो domestic abuse. So does FGM.
What's FGM?
Female genital mutilation.
No,
Have you heard of
never.
that? No? No? So, in some of the African and community, North African community, they, you know, when young girls, when they're about to, before they have menstruation or something, before virginity basically,
Right.
they take them back home and they mutilate their genitals and they sew up because they want them to be virgin until they're married. Okay?
So how do they do the normal stuff?
The peeing and
Yeah.
I don't know, but apparently some of the FGM happens without sedation, without anesthetic, in like traditional culture, and a lot of people die because of female mutilation, because of the infection, and they literally do.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a dedicated section to FGM in those communities, so
Yeah.
it's like domestic abuse, but it's like a fucking umbrella. Sorry.
No, that's
It's like an umbrella term. Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many things under domestic abuse. कुरा गरेर त रात दिन सबै बिचै.
तर आई थिङ्क नेपालमा छ कि छैन दिदी यस्तो लाइक टु हेल्प यस्तो अब्युजहरूको संस्था भन्छ नि त होइन?
Yeah, संस्था. The only thing that comes into my mind is Mighty Nepal, you know, where women are housed. But also, having said that, domestic abuse happens to men as well. है नेपालको स्ट्याटिस्टिक्स त मलाई त्यति धेरै थाहा छैन. I'm sure नेपालमा केही न केहीको च्यारिटी त छ है, because there is so much need for that. UK मा चाहिँ statistics, when I was working there, I know that the statistics were 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men or 1 in 6 LGBTQ ko community ko manse. That was the statistic that the victims of domestic abuse were 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 men or LGBTQ community ko.
मैले चाहिँ अघि तपाईँलाई त्यही सोध्न आएको थिएँ कि यसो पहिलाको एक्सपिरियन्स अनुसार चाहिँ डु यु गेट लाइक हामीले सुन्दा त सधैँ एज अ लाइक कम्युनिटी सोसाइटी जे भन्दा नि सधैँ धेरै जस्तो चाहिँ मेनले वुमेनलाई अब्युज गरेको सुन्छ नि त. बट वी डोन्ट हियर अ लट अबाउट वुमेन गेटिङ वुमेनले मेनलाई अब्युज गरेको. त्यो चाहिँ धेरै कुरा गर्दैन त्यस्तो. मोस्टली चाहिँ
because you know what, I feel like I feel bad for men even more, because one, menलाई चाहिँ they're told as, oh my god, man भएर पनि कस्तो टोलरेट गरेको हुन्छ नि. यो त अलिकति, what do you call it, नापुंसक in Nepali. So he's a bit like जोइटिङ नापुंसक, like he doesn't have balls to control his woman or control this one. Why is he tolerating? उनीहरूलाई झन् डबल सेम हुन्छ क्या, because you know हाम्रो कल्चरमा man is supposed to be like hard, but as a man to show your emotions it's even harder. Even if you show your emotions, you do kind of judge them a little bit. And also on top of that, if you're a domestic victim, then that's it, you're not even a man apparently to some people. But also even in the authorities, the help for men is not that very limited. So women ko lagi, because the domestic is so common in like women victims, and plus women are seen as like they could more vulnerable. There's more help for them. But for men, it's like, I'll give you an example. When you escape a situation, you go and make a homeless application at the council. So because you're homeless, you don't have a roof over your head, so you want an emergency accommodation. For women, there are a lot of things, like you have a safe house, and safe house is literally a house that you're not allowed to share location of, address of, but it's a house where there are different living arrangements where all the victims of the domestic abuse go and hide. Right? You have a safe house, you have emergency accommodation from the council, and especially when you have a child with you, then you get prioritized in terms of housing. But obviously housing is limited. Men are probably at the lowest in the priority wise, because apparently men can fend for themselves. Like apparently men can't get raped when they are sleeping out in the street. And I'm sorry, but men do get raped. Like it's because they don't talk about it much.
Right.
Like I know so many men that have been abused when they were younger, but they just don't find it comfortable to talk about it. And yes, yeah, अब obviously women को त हामी बोल्छ अब बोल्न गाह्रो नि छ तर still you hear more about women नि त but men को चाहिँ obviously because of the double shame all that it's very hard for them to express their feelings, express that they've been through this. And it's hard for you guys honestly.
But I think I think how social media reacts just for example अब एउटा त्यो अस्ति केसहरुको त्यो एउटा के something anyways केटीको बारेमा हैन so she was saying like how she got like raped by her like family members or whatever अनि त्यो स्टोरी चाहिँ एकदमै भाइरल हुने हैन whereas केटा मान्छेले त्यस्तै कुरा शेयर गर्यो भने चाहिँ हाँस्दिने हैन अनि लाइक त्यो जिस्काइदिने हैन त्यस्तो टाइपको चाहिँ discrimination.
That's exactly the situation that you're facing. You don't have a safe space. You don't have a non-judgmental space for you to express what you've gone through. And also, when we're talking about rape by a family member, it's so... The amount of times you're raped by a family member or somebody in a position of trust with you is a lot more than a stranger raping you. A stranger raping you is, I mean, the chances of that is what? I don't even know. I've walked 35 years of my life in this world and I've not been raped by a stranger yet. I mean, sorry, that came out very badly. Yeah, obviously, I'm talking about that. Yeah. When rapes do happen from somebody who knows you, somebody who knows your parents,
who's eyeing you for a long time, who's assessing whether this person has got support around them, whether if I do something to this person, will that person be able to speak? Will that person have somebody to speak to about that I get caught? So this is why abusers the way they work is they take you under control, but also one of the ways of taking you under control is isolating you, right? So emotional abuse, I think I forgot to talk about it earlier. Emotional abuse, isolation is one of the things that we need to be careful about. Okay? Isolation is when, I'll give you a prime example. Right? You are friends with a guy and suddenly that person has got a girlfriend. Right.
And fair enough, he hangs out with you less. But sometimes he doesn't even contact you, okay? So this girl gets angry if he hangs out with his boys, type go, to a certain extent. Yeah, obviously there should be a balance. I'm not saying gone type go. There has to be a balance. And so one of the things how they work is they isolate you from friends and family. Because the less support network you have, the easier it is to control you.
Right.
So they isolate you from friends, they isolate you from family. You will see a lot of people just literally they rarely get in touch with you. Even when they come, they are not themselves. And they are not even talking about things the way they used to talk to you about. Because they're so isolated from their support network. So one of the things that an abuser works in a smart way is isolating you. And it doesn't happen like, no, you can't talk to your mother anymore. You can't talk to your best friend anymore. Gradually, spend more time with me. This type go. Or you don't need to go there. As a girls' night in, boys' night out, man. Right. It's
that is like a part of abuse.
It's such a subtle manipulation. Okay? Very subtle manipulation, but it happens gradually. And before you know it, bam, game over. You're already under their control. And that's when it becomes so hard to get out of. It's
So did it like is something about when an abuser victim goes through stuff, there's a it's a DASH risk assessment.
Okay. Yeah.
What is it?
What is that? So DASH risk assessment checklist is a form that you fill out initially when you meet a victim to assess the extent of the risk present. Okay, so it will have about question points. So 13 or not 13? I think there's about 20 questions, and it's all designed to ask you not directly, but kind of like to find out what kind of situation you're in. So one of the things were like, you know, are you pregnant or have you had a child recently? For a normal person, that is like a normal question, na? That what you're trying to assess is pregnancy statistically pregnancy ko belama athwa bhakhar pregnant bhayerako belama, when their stress is high, the chances of domestic abuse is higher. Or there is that question of, have you ever tried to commit suicide or have you had suicidal thoughts? So it looks at the state of your mental health, right? Has the person ever harmed your children in any way? That is obviously looking at us. Or there's also this question about, have they harmed an animal or a family pet at all? Okay, which is, you don't really make that connection with domestic abuse. So what they're trying to look at is, your abuser is kotiko twisted mentally. Like, what is, how bad is this person? And they're trying to look at that. And there's a lot of questions on there that are designed to learn about the person, about the house situation, about what kind of abuse that we're dealing with. Need that risk assessment, depending on how much you score, the action you take depends on the score. Okay? So if it's like a low risk, I think 1 to 4 score, low risk, you just kind of give them advice. If you're a high risk, and especially there's a safeguarding concern, then you immediately, whether that person gives consent or not, you go to the authorities. Usually, if it's a low risk and the person doesn't want to go to the authorities, you respect their decision, right? Because there's confidentiality between you and your client. But if it's a high risk and if there's safeguarding concern, even if that person doesn't want to go to the authorities, you have to report it, because there is that level of risk. And you feel like if you don't take action now, then this is going to end up in a really shitty situation. So you have that tool to assess risk, basically. And a lot of people police use it, the domestic abuse charity use it, the domestic abuse support workers, they all use the same form.
Okay. So तपाईको काम गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ, is there any like worse case that you ever faced that still haunts you? Like हुन्छ नि अब त्यस्तो
one of the
spine chilling type.
It's not my own client, but what happens is monthly we have a MARAC meeting. So MARAC meeting is multi-agency conference, MARAC, multi-agency risk assessment conference. So whole month ma jati pani incidences bhayo ni victim ko domestic abuse ko, those are discussed in a conference. And in the conference you have multi-agencies, you have police, you have firefighters, and I'll tell you why you have firefighters there. You have firefighters, fire service, you have the council, you have the benefits service. So that MARAC meeting is where you bring all the cases and you discuss how you can support the victim together. Right. So this MARAC meeting, I've never met this victim. I never took on the case. It was I think they refused Nepali service, Nepali speaking service.
But उनीहरु चाहिँ नेपाली नै थियो.
उनीहरु चाहिँ नेपाली नै, and I think that she had pretty good English. That one of the most disgusting case that I heard was Deme. Okay, it was right at the start of my job. So I don't know how explicit this is gonna be for YouTube or whatever.
No, that's fine.
This woman, she got raped by her partner anally on a sofa while she was holding her 3-year-old child.
So that was like abuse.
Imagine how disgusting that is. Like she was physically raped, and then while she was holding her child on the sofa.
Right.
And it was one of the most disgusting cases I've heard.
Damn.
And that
so she was trying to like baby la bachauna khojeko?
I don't know what was happening.
Okay.
I don't know what was happening. I don't know why the baby was there, and I don't even know what kind of person rapes you right in front of your child. Okay? Right. It's yeah, that is the extent. It is effed up, really effed up. But you know, you never think this is a situation hunzala, but you have to highlight the extremity of domestic abuse cases. You have to say things like this because you don't hear people talking about these issues.
Yes.
And it can happen. You may not have seen it, you may not have been aware about it, but it happens in the community, and you can kind of avoid or lessen this kind of things by speaking up for your friends, your family, your victims, your whoever that are in a situation like that. Just being there and having that support network is so much more helpful than turning a blind eye. Okay, or saying it's not my business, I shouldn't really get involved. And that happens quite a lot. Like a lot of people are like, no, I shouldn't get involved. And I know that you cannot force help on the victim. And the best thing you can do if the person doesn't want to get help is just slowly build up their confidence by being there, just being the support network, and slowly telling them, just human nature and our social circle shapes how we think, how we get conditioned. If you're in a bad situation, you're only going to learn bad things. But if you make that person's situation positive around them, then they're going to start building up themselves. They will get courage one day because you've been emotionally supporting them. You may not be able to help them, but you can emotionally support them. The victim's courage depends on a lot of how much support there is out there for them.
Right. So I think अब कुरा गरे भने चाहिँ एकदमै लम्बिन्छ होला. So I would say like तपाईँले चाहिँ जस भनौँ न अब भ्युअर्सहरुमा कोही न कोही हेर्लाले हेर्ला अब जो कि अब आफै त्यस्तो साइन्सहरु भिक्टिम छ तर स्पिक अप गर्न सके छैन, उनीहरुलाई जस्तो के भन्न छ भने what would you advise them, like हुन्छ नि अब जसले
I would say even if you're not ready to get out of the situation, at least go and learn about your options and your rights and what help is available out there. Right? Because that helps a lot in understanding what your situation will be like if you actually end up leaving. And if there is no children involved, safeguarding issue, you can seek confidential help. The service is confidential. Since advice there are still Nepali speaking if you have trouble with language. Then it's also helpful. Language support pani cha. But obviously I would say get out of the situation, and it's gonna take a lot of courage, and it's gonna take a few tries before you actually make it out properly. Instead of staying in that situation and losing hope, it's better than being in that situation. So at least buza आफ्नो बुझ्नुहोस् नेपाली बुझ्नुहोस् आफ्नो अप्सन्सहरुको बारेमा, आफ्नो हकहरुको बारेमा, हैन, अथवा के सहयोगहरु छ. You can learn about it. You can probably keep it in the back of your mind. And honestly, बुझ्न मात्र गयो नि धेरै कुरा सिकिन्छ के. The domestic abuse advisor support worker is gonna help you. Like they're gonna customize the help to you. Obviously general help त ज्यादा पनि पाइन्छ, and there are a lot of websites on the internet to find out what kind of help and support they offer. So obviously women's health aid भयो, or domestic violence center, domestic abuse violence center, त्यस्तोहरु भयो. For men there's Respect Mankind, and for LGBT community there's Gallup. Like there's every kind of charity and help available for domestic abuse. So all you need to do is go to their website. Some have chat service. You don't even have to reveal your name or anything like that. All you can do is chat service, ask questions. If you have any questions about specific to yourself or to your situation, ask. You can contact them by email. You can call them and talk to someone. Also, take care of your mental health, because that's one of the key things to make you strong and have some courage to get out. So it's help is available out there. You just have to take a little bit of initiative. It takes a little bit of courage to go out, and even though you may not end up getting out in the first try, it's gonna take
It's gonna
years.
be really hard.
It's gonna be hard, but the thing is, would you rather struggle and get stuck in that kind of situation forever? Or would you struggle temporarily so that your future is a bit more free, you know, so that you can do what you want in your future life and you don't have to live in fear. You don't have to, think about, oh, am I going to get beaten up today? What things am I going to hear? And say, what will he or she do to me now? You don't have to live in that fear, Nita. So just tiny steps to take.
Baby steps. Right. So yeah, thank you, Didi, for coming today. I really enjoyed today's episode. It was it was like bhaneni kura lamba and but it was really, really nice because I think like community ma yesko barama धेरै कुरा नै हुँदैन. So I think it was really nice to like get the word out. Hopefully right मान्छेहरुलाई पुग्छ यो सबै अथवा कोलाई थाहा भएको हैन. Spread the news and hopefully त्यस्तो सारो अब्युज नहोस् हैन.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
Right. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks.
Yay.
Bye.